Good morning to friends in the United States. Good afternoon to friends in the United Arab Emirates and the Middle East, and friends that are joining also from Israel. We very much appreciate you participating in today's webinar on charting the post-pandemic future of the UAE's free zones, which is part of the Business Council's fall series of Back to Business webinar series. I could not be more delighted to be joined today on this virtual stage by leadership from three prominent free zones: Dubai Multi-Commodity Center, JAFSA, and Masdar, two Dubai entities and one prominent Abu Dhabi entity. My name is Danny Seabright. I'm the president of US-UAE Business Council. We're pleased to have over almost 300 registered guests for today's webinar. Among them, I note officials from our partners at the U.S. Commercial Service, the U.S. Embassy, the UAE Embassy in Washington, D.C., as well as representatives from a number of states across the United States, including Alabama, Arkansas, Indiana, and Pennsylvania. Attendees, if you would please use the Q&A function at the bottom of your screens for any questions you have for the panelists. We'll try to work those into the discussion for sure. This session is on the record and is being recorded. There will be a YouTube clip sent out to attendees who were not able to join the webinar this morning at the last moment, as well as to our broader membership, so that others can enjoy and understand the future of free zones in the United Arab Emirates. I'm really pleased that Mr. Ahmed bin Sulayem, Executive Chairman and CEO of Dubai Multi-Commodity Center, is with us this morning. Mr. Mohammed Jamil Al-Ramahi, CEO of Masdar, or the Abu Dhabi Future Energy Company, and Ms. Epsaban Al-Kabi is head of sales for JAFSA and is representing her CEO this morning. We could be not more honored to have the three of you. I'd like to begin by introducing our first speaker, Ahmed bin Sulayem, the chairman, executive chairman and CEO of DMCC. Ahmed is a close friend and colleague for many years. We've had the pleasure of traveling together in the United States on visits hosted by Dubai FDI, and I've had the great pleasure of visiting his offices in DMCC many, many times in Dubai. Mr. bin Sulayem has driven DMCC's growth from a startup of 28 member companies in 2003 to one of the world's leading and largest free zones in 2019, with over 17,500 member companies from 180 countries. Of these companies, no less than 575 are from the United States, which is really important. Again, I've been honored to work with Ahmed in a number of ways, and I do call him and consider him a colleague and a friend. Mr. bin Sulayem, the floor is yours. And I know you've been very active and engaged recently with our friends in Israel as well, on behalf of some of your other positions that you hold. So after your opening comments for 3 minutes or so about DMCC, please give us a word or two about that as well. Thank you, my friend. Over to you.
Thank you, Danny. I think we met for the first time, I think, on one of the trade missions with Dubai FDI, I believe. But you've already had a relation with Gotham and my team by then. Yes, look, DMCC is I believe, I joined DMCC about in 2001, before the appealing by Dubai government, and I joined them when it was just a concept. And I've been blessed and lucky to be part of that organization in every step of the way. And I've been blessed to have a great team to work with. Feels like I've been with 6 managements in the past 19 years. And the past 2 years has been the most fun I've had. Today, DMCC still retains over 18,000 companies, and we're still growing. We registered over 800 companies in the first 6 months. I believe we should be coming close to 2,000 companies again by the end of this year. I don't know how much of that will be contributed by the new peace treaty. But we'll see about that. A lot of the new businesses are coming still from Europe and Africa. There's a lot of work to be done there. We looked at due to the COVID and the changes that happened around the world. I think we were the first free zone to provide support packages and extend them for our members. in part to assist them and help them in these difficult times, but it's also an opportunity. We had to act and move fast. Um, uh, DMCC is one of the key success stories that the government of Dubai has to present. So much so that we still contribute about 10% of Dubai's GDP, and that number is only going to go up going forward. Uh, and and, uh, and today you've mentioned before we started about the tea and the coffee center. We're also progressing well with our uptown tower. We're above 30 floors, and by the time it's delivered in 2022, I believe, we should reach around 80 stories. And we're building that ourselves. And the reason we're doing that is to get the ball rolling when it comes to the DMCC district. And we believe that it will attract more businesses to that district. We have a concept that's similar to the Times Square area that will be surrounded with the buildings, the raised landscape. So from the property side, there's still developments coming up. We do have a few other patches of land that we're developing in JLT. I think October 18th, we are having the Future of Trade workshop as well, and there will be more updates then on DMCC. But it's been an amazing learning curve for us and an opportunity at the same time.
Thank you so much. Do you want to say one word, Ahmed, about the diamond exchange signatures?
Yeah. When we set up the Dubai Diamond Exchange and joined the World Federation of Diamond Bourses back in 2003 alongside the Shanghai Diamond Exchange, one of the conditions of being a member of the World Federation of Diamond Bourses is that the exchange is accessible to every single member of the diamond exchanges, whether they're based in Hong Kong, New York, or even Tel Aviv. And I'm happy to say that during those years, we've made exceptions, just the same way when there's an event related to the dentistry or there are international events. So in that regard, we've done our best, despite the challenges that does come with not having their embassy here and all that. But we grew, and I think the World Federation of Diamond Bourses and the diamond industry understood that peace will come. It's just a matter of time. And myself, like yourself, Danny, I didn't know when it will happen, but I'm working on a blog, and I'm taking a quote from His Highness Sheikh Mohammed bin Rashid Al Maktoum when he back in 2004 when he spoke at the World Economic Forum at the Dead Sea, and he also believed to have peace and the connecting the economies with Israel will bring peace and bring more prosperity. So that view has been with the leadership for a while. It's just a matter of timing, I believe. And I'm still processing this news. We did the signing with Yoram, and just about 5 or 6 months ago, I was there for the Israel Diamond Week in an unofficial capacity, obviously. But they know us very well. They've been here a few times. And as soon as the door opened and it's become official, a lot more trade will be coming here. And it's an opportunity. It's an opportunity for India. They like this new triangle trading between Tel Aviv, Dubai, Mumbai, and Surat. So you'll see more. We're still yet to see the real impact of this peace agreement. Not just on diamonds, but for the rest of the commodity businesses that's related to DMCC.
It's really, really important, Ahmed, and thank you for saying those words. And I should have started just with a mabruk and a mazel tov to all of you, to everyone in the region. I've worked on this process for some 30 years. I was at the White House last week for the signing ceremony, and it's just it's an amazing step forward, and it holds incredible promise for everyone, particularly your youth. So again, congratulations. I'd like to turn now, if I may please, to another dear friend and colleague in Abu Dhabi, Mr. Mohammed Jamil Al-Harmahi. He's the CEO of Masdar, Abu Dhabi's future energy company. Mr. Al-Ramahi leads the strategic development of Masdar. He's played an instrumental role in the company's emergence over the last decade, both as a catalyst for renewable energy in the UAE, the Arab world, and as an early adopter of advanced clean technologies at scale in key international markets more broadly. In terms of international markets, Masdar has recently made some very significant investments in the United States, which I hope he touches on during the webinar. Finally, I should note that Masdar is a very important part of the Mubadala Investment Company, which co-chairs our board of directors, and could not be more pleased to have Mr. Al-Ramahi also sit on our board of directors. So with that, Mohammed, over to you, and I hope you also say a word about IRENA and potential collaboration with our Israeli friends and colleagues as Masdar goes forward. Please.
Thank you, Danny. Assalamu alaikum and good afternoon for our dear friends in the US, or good morning to our dear friends in the US, and good afternoon to our colleagues in the region, and particularly here in the UAE. Thank you for this opportunity to participate in today's webinar alongside my peers at Dubai Multi-Commodity Center and Jebel Ali Free Zone. Let me also say that it is a pleasure to support the US-UAE Business Council, which does so much important work fostering closer ties between the business communities of our two nations. We are also proud to host several iconic US companies at our free zone at Masdar City. And as you may know, we are expanding our footprint of renewable energy projects in the United States, one of the largest markets in the world for installed renewable capacities. The topic of today's conversation is particularly relevant because while government support is crucial to overcoming the challenges of COVID-19, the private sector must also show leadership in combating its effects through helping to revive the economies. This is where the UAE's free zones can really start coming into their own, because catalyzing economic growth is why we exist. Realizing commercial growth is as important to Masdar City as the social and environmental pillars of our commitment to sustainable developments. However, I must add that no sector of the economy has been immune to the effect of COVID-19 in the UAE and internationally. The supply chain impact has been particularly acute, and we are all still adapting to the new normal the pandemic has created. At Masdar City, we embarked on major adaptation exercise as soon as the crisis began. Protecting our staff, those of our tenants, and our residents was the #1 priority. And thanks to the swift action, we have been able to start returning to what we say normal office working condition of some sort. Masdar City also provided a base of the UAE's response to the emergency. And here I would like to recognize one Masdar City company in particular, the technology firm Group 42, which helped to set up in the city at the height of the lockdown period, one of the largest COVID-19 testing facilities in the world. This was a proud achievement, and I'm equally proud to report that our free zone has been able to attract more than 100 new businesses so far this year, despite the widespread disruption caused by the pandemic. I believe there are three main reasons for this. Firstly, like many organizations, we have benefited greatly from our swift and decisive action of our government. In May, the Abu Dhabi holding company ADQ launched the 1.1 billion Alpha Wave Incubation Fund to encourage tech startups from India and Southeast Asia to establish their regional and hopefully their global operation in the Emirate here in Masdar City. ADQ also partnered with Abu Dhabi Investment Office to attract further funding for local digital startups. The second reason has to be with our offering, has to be with Masdar City's offering. We provide support at each of the 3 stages of startups, namely incubation through our tenants such as Crypto Labs, acceleration through our joint venture with British Petroleum known as the Catalyst, and expansion through initiatives such as the Alpha Fund and the benefits of the sustainability ecosystem we have created at Masdar City over the last decade. Today, this ecosystem includes Honeywell, Siemens Energy, and other multinational companies, research institutions such as the Mohammed bin Zayed University of Artificial Intelligence, and government entities like the U.A.E. Space Agency, Emirates Nuclear Energy Corporation, and of course, the International Renewable Energy Agency, IRENA. The third and arguably the most important reason why the free zone has continued to grow over the past 9 months is because Masdar City offers all businesses the opportunity to be part of building one of the world's most sustainable urban communities. According to the United Nations Environment Programme, buildings and their construction together account of 36% of global energy use and 39% of energy-related carbon emissions. Masdar City is tackling this challenge head-on by creating a living template for sustainable urban growth, where each new building attempts to push the envelope for sustainable design and where the latest clean technologies are being tested on site. Looking toward the future, I think that the real differentiator will become even more important to the success of Masdar City because of COVID-19 has taught us something, and that thing is that economic growth in the future has to be sustainable. So that's my few points, Danny. And in regards to our dear friends in Israel, a lot of people may know or may not know, Israel has been with us in Masdar City for actually a few years, since the United Arab Emirates was blessed to host the International Renewable Energy Agency. And since then, our relationship with the Israeli representative has been a very positive one, a one that is based on collaboration and strategic relationship, particularly when it comes to technology and sustainable technologies in particular. So we look forward for building on this great momentum that was created last week in Washington, D.C. And we see ourselves working closely with technology companies from Israel, and we would love to welcome them here in Masdar City, but also we see ourselves looking at and investing in renewable energy sector in Israel in the future, inshallah. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mohammed. And it's just as Ahmed sort of underscored that these ties with Israel have been deep and abiding before the deal last week in Washington, or the agreement or the peace treaty. Now they're going to flourish and have the opportunity to flourish and grow and expand so greatly. And it's just really wonderful to hear those aspects from your side. I'd like to now introduce, if I could, Epsahan Al-Kabi, head of sales at JAFSA. JAFSA is enormously important to the economy of Dubai and the UAE, serving as home to over 7,500 companies, including nearly 100 global Fortune 500 companies. Ms. Al-Kabi has held senior management roles at JAFSA for the past 14 years. In her current role as head of sales, she works to improve internal processes and procedures to ensure members at JAFSA receive the best in world-class service. I should note that JAFSA is part of DP World, whose chairman is His Excellency Sultan bin Sulayem. Ahmed, do you know him? I think Sultan bin Sulayem, I think you know him somehow. And that he's the vice chairman, if you will, of our board of directors and a monumental figure in the UAE business community and the development of Dubai over the years. So we could not be more pleased to have JAFSA represented today. And Eptaban Al-Kabi, the floor is yours. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Danny. Good morning, everyone in US, and good afternoon for everyone joining us from Middle East. My name is Eptaban Al-Kabi, and I'm head of sales of JAFSA. I've been working, as Danny said, with JAFSA for 16 years, and I'm honored to be representing our CEO today. JAFSA and is the DP World's flagship free zone and the leading logistics and trade hub in the UAE. It is also home for one of the largest business communities in the country, with over 8,000 companies from 140 countries. Our strategic locations near Jebel Ali Port offers multi-modal connectivity to over 3.5 billion consumers. And today, I can say we are proudly stand as a dynamic base for thousands of businesses while sustaining more than 135,000 jobs in the free zone. During the pandemic, we have launched a range of initiatives and incentives for our existing and new customers during the lockdown and after the reopening phase as well. Initiatives has supported and helped our customers, companies, and investors within the free zone to ease their stress of conducting business during the crisis. I look forward to our discussion today and to the knowledge exchange with the leaders like yourself, gentlemen. Thank you.
Thank you, Esteban, so much. It's very kind of you. We'll move to the Q&A portion. And again, I remind our attendees on the call to please, if you want to work a question into the discussion here, please use the chat function or use the Q&A function to do so. I really want to get to the discussion a little bit. The title of the webinar, what's going to change, or what's changing, or what are your lessons learned from COVID-19 with regard to your business model going forward on the various free zones. And coupled with that, this notion that the UAE is changing its investment laws, it's changing its ownership laws, it's constantly reforming them, and that one of the reasons why a company might have set up in a free zone years ago might not necessarily be the same as it was before. In that now that you can have 100% ownership in some parts of the mainland. So Ahmed, I'm going to start with you, and just give us a few points on if you would, on the impact of the pandemic on your business and what it's taught you going forward. What are your lessons learned from the pandemic, and how are you going to implement those in the way the free zone is managed and the services it offers its potential clients and members going forward? Ahmed, you're on mute, and if you would unmute yourself, we'd really appreciate it and hear your response. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, look, when the pandemic first started becoming an issue in China, I mean, when it started there, I think earlier this year or by the end of last year, we still had some business trips coming up, and I think in March we did San Francisco and Houston for our Future of Trade workshop, and I got an indication of where the market or how the market would react to it. I mean, one of the points made in San Francisco by one of the participants at that is that China is going to be back. The business is going to be back. It's more or less how things will be packaged. You know, when the car industry started and driving was common, people did not drive with seat belts. Today you have to wear seat belts, and just a few years ago, the people who sit in the back seat wore seat belts. It's just business will be back. Things will get some business do get impacted, but for me during those times, especially going into April and all that, it was important to stay in touch with our members, understood their challenges, and engage also with the local and federal government also, because there might be steps that I wanted to take, but it had to be in line with the federal government. But what I am grateful of is the fact that the UAE is one of the first countries to apply the COVID rules, did the lockdown, and come out of it ahead of other countries. So that's kind of more or less what happened. And some of our members actually stayed in DMCC, and some did come because of the ease of business and security. We've also, as I mentioned earlier, we've provided the support package to assist and extended that, given that the COVID did not get solved in 3, 4, 5 weeks, even months. It's still an issue. It seems that it's going to be a reality that we're going to live with, even when the vaccine is out and it does get cured. I do see the world behavior just change a little bit more. I do have a business trip coming up in October, I think on the 5th or 6th, to New York and Miami, and I'm following up with some of the business there. So I do see that on the diamond side, for example, as I'm talking to you, there are tenders happening at the Diamond Exchange today by De Beers and Rappaport, rough and polished. So business is moving because it has to. I mean, DMCC is a community that represents 100,000 people living and working there. Some of the F&B were impacted, but they're back in action. Earlier on, I said that during the worst side of the lockdown, the coffee center had its biggest spike in business, getting coffees from Sharjah, Abu Dhabi, and some of the restaurants. Even the ones who have never heard of us were asking where to store their coffee, and they would not store it with their competition. And looking at DMCC's coffee center, we don't compete with the market, we facilitate the market. So it's been as I said before, it's been a learning experience for us, but we're keeping a close eye on the market. And I mean, COVID for me really highlighted the importance of the Future of Trade workshop, which we're having on the 18th of October. Earlier this year, when I was in Davos, we signed an agreement with Crypto Labs, and they will be operating, I believe, from the 48th level. And this is to roll out the blockchain and crypto ecosystem for our members. A few years ago, we had a strategic partnership with Astro Labs, a Google Tech Hub for entrepreneurs, and that's consistently growing and moving from strength to strength. They did get impacted by the COVID, but they have adapted. I think I looked at it as an opportunity as much as it is a challenge. And if you do talk to the Google Tech Hubs, that's how they address matters. Wherever there's a challenge, it means it's an opportunity for something. Right. And that's pretty much how I've seen the experience. DGCX has been going strong really well, and they've just signed an agreement recently with Sudan that has yet to be announced. I kind of killed that news for Les. I apologize if you're listening, Les. But on the online and the tech side, things have been moving well. So much so, one of the new members, thinklab.ae, set up their company 100% online. And that's something that worries me personally sometimes, because I worry about a hacker that would fool us. And I asked them a few questions. What was the security features like, etc. And they did say they made me feel like we're a bit of PayPal or something, because they said we had to raise today's newspaper, our ID, do some stuff like that. But they made a good point to me. They said, Ahmed, the security features that we've been providing and the steps is just as good as someone coming to your office and setting it up anyways. That's how they felt. And I was happy to see that happen. And it came out of necessity, but I'm happy that from the digital side and online side, DMCC was able to utilize it to address this challenge. And the webinars helped a lot. I think you've probably heard a few of our webinars, Danny. There will be a few more coming up before the end of the year.
Ahmed, thank you. And don't go away, because there's some questions in the chat function, on the Q&A function, that we want to get to that are addressed to you. But I do want to give your other colleagues on the panel a chance to say a few words about the current situation and the impact of the pandemic. Mohammed, you mentioned that Masdar City announced one of its biggest rates in growth last month, despite the pandemic. But give us your sense and your thoughts on how the pandemic has changed your business model going forward, and things that you might implement anew as a result, please. Mohammed, there you go. Mohammed, you were on mute. There you go.
Yes, Dan.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we are in a unique position, Masdar City Free Zone, and we have a unique value proposition. On one hand, we are an innovation hub promoting businesses through incubation and acceleration, and I gave you just a few examples of the incubators and the accelerators that we have within our environment here at Masdar City Free Zone. Therefore, we support new ventures, and we are looking to expand that. On the other hand, we are offering businesses to be part of the world's most sustainable urban community, and you know, ESG and sustainability and the environment is becoming more and more of a crucial and a very important requirement for some of the large corporations, but also mid-sized corporations. And I mentioned Honeywell, I mentioned Siemens Energy, but we have also plenty of other companies who had several options in front of them here, particularly in Abu Dhabi, but they opted to come into Masdar City to be affiliated with the sustainable urban community. But again, like I said earlier in my opening remarks, COVID-19 had an impact on everyone, and it will continue to have an impact on everyone, locally and internationally. However, we at Masdar City, we have seen growth. We see more technology companies coming to our end, and this is driven mainly by a few pillars. Mohammed bin Zayed University of Artificial Intelligence. I think this is a key institution that focuses on research and development within the technology sphere. And that institution was established last year here in Masdar City. And that institution is attracting a lot of interest from technology companies. And then you have, of course, the International Renewable Energy Agency. And the fact that this agency is based in Masdar City is also attracting a lot of interest from companies, NGOs who are interested in sustainability and renewable energy. On top of that, you have the Emirates Nuclear Agency. Again, a great milestone for Abu Dhabi, a great milestone for the UAE in the official inauguration of the first kilowatt of electricity into our grid, coming from clean solution like nuclear power. Then you have the UAE Space Agency that is here within the city. That is also attracting a lot of interest. As you are aware, we've launched a mission to Mars. We've also had our first UAE participation with the International Space Agency. So it has been a great achievement for the UAE in this area. And we are investing a lot into space. That by itself is also attracting a lot of attention from the international communities and companies and entities who are interested in this space. So as you can imagine, Danny, the ecosystem by itself, regardless of COVID-19, has created momentum. And we strongly believe this momentum will continue. And we also believe that this great announcement that was done last week will add more momentum into the positive momentum that we have already created within Masdar City Free Zone and the ecosystem here at the city.
That's fantastic, Mohammed. Thank you for reminding us all. I've been out to Masdar City so many times over the years, since its creation, since its construction, even before its construction. And what's just come to bear in your ecosystem in the last couple of years is really tremendous and amazing. And it really is becoming a hub, if you will, in the tech space, across from energy to space exploration to artificial intelligence, as you said. So really, really important. Quickly, Efsaham, can you talk a little bit about the impact of COVID-19 on what JAFSA has done and how JAFSA might move forward in the future as a result of lessons learned from dealing with COVID-19 with your companies and your members?
Sure thing. So COVID affected everyone everywhere. It is interesting how we can say that the whole world can relate. At JAVZA, we acted very quickly and the technology worked in our favor. When we were not physically in office, for example, we were remotely working on extended hours. So we never basically stopped. For us, safeguarding business continuity while protecting every individual from COVID risk was very important. We focused on the need of the hour, which was to ensure the flow of the trade, of the essential trade. So we function as an efficient, because we function as an efficient supply chain channel to get the food and the medicine in and out very efficiently. Some companies dealing with the critical supplies, for example, like food, medicine, and medical equipment, also worked closely with us, so we could ensure the flow of the essential goods goes very smoothly in and out the country. The lockdown affected all the companies, including those in Jabal Ali Free Zone, of course, so no one was immune to it. But our efforts were focused on easing the burden of those customers. I believe we have learned a lot during this crisis, and with the resilient and the focus on the essential trade, we have come out with positive and less impact on the business overall.
Thank you so much. That's really helpful to know and to understand how the companies have reacted and helped and worked together with you to weather the crisis is really key. Ahmed, we want to focus a little bit on, again, the role of the free zone in the future, its continued importance as a place for companies to set up and do their business, particularly as the UAE is on the forefront of reform and business reform. And we have a question from Dr. Robert Moglianicki, who's the resident scholar at Arab Gulf States Institute in Washington, and AGSIW is one of our close partners and friends. We collaborate with them a lot, a close friend and partner to the UAE. So Robert says, first of all, he says, thank you to all of you excellent speakers and for your insights, but he asks you specifically, Ahmed, about VAT regulations. And do you expect that DMCC will eventually receive the status of a designated zone or other form of preferential treatment regarding VAT? And related to that, how can the UAE government strike the right balance between implementing VAT within and across the country's free zone system in the future? That second part is probably a question for all of you if you want to chime in after Ahmed is finished. Please, Ahmed, go ahead.
A few years ago, I had a bit of experience in the VAT matter, and my main concern wasn't VAT in general. I don't have an issue with VAT, but I did have a concern on its impact on the gold and diamond trade. And during the Dubai Diamond Conference in 2017, a few months before the VAT would be applied in the UAE, I raised my concerns. I mean, we were talking about the impact of lab-grown diamonds, the issue of shortage of diamond finance, and the Dubai Diamond Conference came right after I believe the World Federation of Diamond Bourses President's meeting, if I recall correctly. Either that or the Congress, I can't recall. In any case, I raised my concerns, and it was not a popular thing for me to do, but I brought the example of Germany when they introduced VAT on gold and gold coins, and they were on their way to be the largest gold market in the world, only to lose that industry to Luxembourg and everywhere else. But the key point there is the gold industry never came back to Germany. Once you lose the trust, it's gone. On the diamond side, I had to remind the tax authority and others that these mistakes were done by Holland, and they drove the diamond industry to Belgium for it to never come back. There's Ghassan jewelry there. There's a lot of museums and things like that for touristical things, but they do not have what Belgium and Antwerp has. So these are mistakes that were done. Like, it doesn't apply on every commodity. That was my point I was making. And I did raise, because we're very close to the industry, at that time I was aware of 2 gold refineries that assigned a consultant to move to Hong Kong. So even before the VAT would be applied, some businesses can't handle it. And it's also an opportunity for other countries to pull them away from the UAE. But it wasn't a case of VAT being applied on all the businesses. Now, DMCC is not a gated free zone. We have F&B, we have restaurants, and whatever VAT applies to them applies inland as well. And for businesses that I would like to protect from the VAT, I would pick a location like Jafza South for our tea center and our coffee center. We're comfortable with Jafza because it's a bonded free zone. And coming back to DMCC, personally, I don't have a big view on that in general, as long as the industry can handle it, as long as it doesn't take Dubai's competitiveness away from major competing centers around the world to the relevant commodity. So there's that. About striking the balance, it's difficult. You know, it depends on the industry we're talking. Like on the tech side, it would be different. I think there's enough in history when it comes to VAT and taxes where we know what we shouldn't touch and we know what can handle it a little bit here and there. For as long as I recall, the highest taxes were on alcohol and tobacco. And I haven't, seriously, since the gold and diamond taxes have been resolved and His Highness Sheikh Mohammed Rashid Al Maktoum made the decision and instructed the cabinet to remove the taxes or the VAT from gold and diamond. I haven't been following up more because it's one of these things that I don't like getting involved publicly or putting pressure on. I'd rather let things run its course. But I do know that Dubai government and the UAE government, once they see that the VAT is impeding on the business, they do take actions. They don't need to wait a few years to realize that they need to remove it. So giving an example, Thailand introduced taxes on diamonds and jewelry and gold over 12 years ago, or more than that, I guess. And they drove their business to the surrounding countries and other places. And just a few years ago, which took them about 12 years, they removed the VAT completely just to revive the industry. The UAE took a few months, and then that's it. They will not destroy an industry like that. Now, I believe after oil, gold and diamonds is one of the #1 top trading commodities in the UAE. So it's a very important commodity when to the federal government as well, not just the MCC. But as a whole, as a free zone, unbonded free zone, we have a lot of businesses setting up here, family businesses. I mentioned the Crypto Valley, and we do have a few more services that we'll announce soon. So I don't have any personal concerns. I did have them on gold and diamonds, and I did my part. And I'm glad that we're at a stage where Dubai is about to be the #1 in a year to 4 years from now. I wouldn't be surprised if Dubai overtakes Antwerp as the leading diamond center in the world. And we're still growing on gold. I hear from the industry there's about 50% of physical gold that comes through Dubai. I don't know if our listeners know that Dubai re-exports 60% of the tea that comes from the world, which is one of the reasons I looked at coffee, because 80% of countries that produce tea also produce coffee. So we do have the logistic strength and network on this matter. And the meetings I've had around the world, whether it's in Amsterdam, Rotterdam, Belgium, or in the producing countries, have been really good meetings, businesses connecting with us, even though there's a bit of competition on the coffee side, but they do see the value. So much so, it is more cost effective for some African countries, if not most, to ship green coffees, have them processed, roasted, blended or packaged, and then reship back to their country. It would cost them less if they use the Dubai facility. That's how competitive the DMCC Coffee Center is today.
Thank you, Ahmed. Mohammed or Epsaham, do you want to comment on the VAT issue before we go on to the next discussion? Any comment, Mohammed, on how what Masdar is doing with regard to VAT for its companies in the future?
No comment on this from our end.
Okay, no problem. We accept that. Epsaham, do you want to say anything on the VAT?
Danny, I believe we're one of the few bounded or gated free zone in the UAE where all companies are VAT exempted. So we're lucky when it comes to that, and it's one of our competitive advantage for the companies, for the foreign investors. So I hope it remains the same.
Okay, thank you very much for that. I appreciate it. A good friend, Elias Sahaya, asks about, in general, the future with opportunities for collaboration with the Israelis. And he asks a number of questions, but the one that I think is most relevant for today's discussion is, do any one of you have one or two points that you would give to listeners for how to approach potential collaboration in the future with Israel in the business vertical? I know I heard you say, Ahmed, earlier that people should take their time and not rush and not worry and assess what's going on here. I think that's incredibly good advice. Mohammed, or Epsaham, do you want to add to that at all? Any word of advice for how to think about dealing in the future and creating business opportunities with our Israeli friends? Epsaham, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. I believe there's a lot of opportunities for our Israeli friends. We are already in contact with many Israeli companies and investors from Israel. I do encourage them to hurry up and come, and we'll be their advisors. This is what we do as sales. We are the advisors for the investors from around the world. Ahmed wants them to take their time and take, which is a wise decision as well, for them to get educated about the country, about the potentials in the countries. But we can do that for them and on their behalf when they approach us in Jafza.
And Mohammed, do you want to add to that?
Yes, Danny. Well, I mean, we are looking, obviously, they are, like I said earlier, we already are in touch with several technology companies who are really interested in coming to the UAE, particularly to Masdar City. And we will continue our collaboration with the Israeli representative here, frankly, at IRENA, in assessing different and supporting these Israeli technology companies who are really keen to come and promote their technologies. And when I say technologies, I say specifically in relation to, clean tech and future technologies. So now, on top of that, there is the bigger aspect of Israeli Masdar relationship, to be specific. It is the joint collaboration and joint investment. And when I say investment, I mean, I talk about infrastructure project that is related to renewable energy and renewable energy technologies. As you are aware, Israel is at the forefront of sustainability. They are at the forefront of renewable energy, and they are a big promoter of such technologies. We, on the other hand, are the same. As you know, Abu Dhabi was at the forefront of renewable energy, at the forefront of the renewable energy evolution and revolution in this region. So we see eye to eye. There are a lot of opportunities out there. We know that there is a lot of opportunities out there. And we know that we need these companies to be part of our ecosystem, because we are aware that these companies have the relevant technologies for the UAE and for the region. And together, we know that we can eventually, potentially take these technologies into large scale. So the opportunities are there. Time of an essence. Like I agree with our friend Ahmed. I mean, but obviously the opportunities are there.
Thank you, Mohammed.
Can I say a few words to that before I move to the next point?
Yeah, please, quickly, Ahmed.
on what I've noticed is that there's a big eye on property, and when it comes to property, you know, one of the advice I've given, it's easy to find data, it's easy to research, it's easy to find background on the companies, the developers, etc. And given that it's specific to Dubai, you know, there's a lot of supply of property, and the market has been down. And I could understand from their side, this is when you go in, right before the curve goes up. That's a given. I mean, I did mention it's not a blanket advice that, you know, take your time. There are some opportunities you cannot ignore, but do your research, do your background on businesses, on and things like that. One of the things that's exciting about setting up a business and visiting the UAE is that there are similarities with cultures. Like they know this industry, they know the Middle East in some ways. So we will find more in common than not. So I'm excited about it, and I'm pretty much in touch with some of my friends there. You know, the Rappaport, the Levives, and others, and we're watching. I mean, we can't ignore that the COVID thing isn't a changing matter. Like for example, there's I think Israel is on lockdown for the next 3 weeks right now, and that wasn't really anticipated. So I do feel that this is going to be the new normal until this pandemic is completely out. But it is exciting times, and this is what I mean. This is the year where the world really knows that the UAE is on the global map, Abu Dhabi is on the global map, and Dubai is on the global map. So we're doing our part, and DMCC is able to take on more and more companies as we go forward.
Thank you. I'm going to ask one last question for the wrap up, and really, really fast. And Ahmed, you did mention that Israel's on lockdown. It is, but it's also in the middle of the Jewish holidays of Rosh Hashanah, which happened this weekend, and Yom Kippur. So it's not a great time to be traveling to Israel anyway, and vice versa. The Israelis coming your way because they're having some of their high holy days. But in any event, you mentioned also earlier, very early in the broadcast, that you're going to travel soon, possibly to the U.S. And we also talked about the virtual environment that we're all living in. You know, these webinars, these constant Zoom meetings and Microsoft Team meetings and Cisco WebEx meetings. I mean, I have to be proficient in 5 different platforms just to be able to converse with everyone these days. I'm sure you do as well. So I guess a real quick question, one answer, 1 2-sentence answers. Do you worry that the virtual environment is going to take the place first of face-to-face and travel in the future, and then take the place of companies setting up in your free zones when they can do everything in a virtual environment? So I'm going to start with Epsaham and then work backwards to Mohammed and then Ahmed to answer that question, and that's going to be our wrap-up. Go ahead, Epsaham. Please unmute yourself. Are you worried that the virtual environment is going to impact your business in a negative way?
Not at all, Danny. The virtual, I mean, when at the start of the pandemic, we had to adapt very quickly to the technologies in order to continue the business as is. And this is exactly what we've done here in Jobs and in DP World. The technology has helped us to continue business, to meet with our investors, to register companies, to the extent of signing legal documents with those companies with the investors while they are in another regions or another countries. So I believe it will add to the business environment. It will add to the trade, to the number of companies that we register in the free zone, rather than impacting us negatively.
Thank you, Epsaham. Mohammed, to you.
Yes, sir. So, yeah, I mean, obviously, this is something what we call the new norm. Yeah, definitely more virtual meetings will be the future. I would say less business travel will become a norm. And in terms of the impact of the business, I think in somewhat I am more optimistic than pessimistic. maybe in the short term, there will be an impact on certain businesses because of this cultural and psychological change and the way we actually behave. But in the long term, the business will prosper because of efficiencies. And actually in Masdar City Free Zone, for example, we've started virtual offices and virtual digital services prior to COVID-19, because we have seen that this is the way forward. You know, our young youth, this is what they do. Everything is digital, everything is virtual. Eventually, this youth will become us in the future and they will be running these businesses. So we need to cater for this change. What COVID did is just they accelerated that change. So that change has been there, and it will stay here for good.
Understand, and I agree with you completely on those last points. Ahmed, you get to have the last word here on this topic, please.
Well, I mentioned that we're building our expansion, the DMC, or the JLT district. We're well over 30 floors with our Uptown Tower. I think it has its own Instagram account as well. You can follow the progress there. I've been to that building. I never thought I would walk into any of our developments and say, this is bigger or impresses me more than Al Mas Tower, but the Uptown Tower is very impressive. And I don't have any concerns that the industry is going to change so much that people will be avoiding offices. Literally because I have yet to see a company that is completely AI and robots. As long as humans are in the office, nobody wants to stay home 24 hours with kids, you know, and the same with wives and all that. People want to go out, and I have hope for that. So I'm not concerned one bit. I think people will look forward to going to the office. It's you know, I know the shareholders of Zoom would love that people stay on Zoom and keep using it. I don't think it's going to die like the BlackBerry, but I have no concerns. Things will come back. People need, look, it's very convenient. I can travel more because of this. I can be abroad, you know, but I do find it a bit different when I meet companies for the first time online, rather than if I know the person and then I meet them online. So that's not going to change anytime soon.
I agree with you completely as well. I think that the importance of face-to-face is still very much there, very much a part of all of our cultures, but the virtual can help with maintenance, the virtual can help with moving things along, and certainly to Mohammed's point, with efficiencies and saving money as well.
Danny, I just want to add one point to that.
Yeah.
We set up our roasting machinery in the coffee center, and we used Brambati. Now it's a hybrid. It's not like the old machinery that Robot does, where if you stop roasting for a few days and you want to reactivate it, you pay the same amount of setting it up. So this is a highly advanced one, but to the point where it is monitored even by Brambati outside. And if there's an issue, they would call our guys, hey, do it this way and that. And when they communicate, even if their language, if my guys speak English and they're Italians over there, it gets translated. So these virtual meetings will happen. I mean, it will be very costly if these guys have to come here, show us around, but it will be integrated. But will it take over? I highly doubt that.
Understand. Ladies and gentlemen, from shipping and logistics to coffee and diamonds to high tech and renewable energy, this has been a wonderful conversation today with our friends. Thank you so much. On Monday, October 5th, the Business Council is going to host a very important conversation about China and the UAE and the Gulf. And the next day, we're going to host a webinar on the future of logistics with the leadership from JAFSA, Gulftainer, Abu Dhabi Ports, and Etihad Rail. So please don't miss those two webinars that we have upcoming, as well as some others that you'll be hearing about. Again, a warm round of thank you to our three key panelists today. Much appreciate your support and what you're doing in the local community and how you support the Business Council and our work every day. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful evening in the UAE and a wonderful day in the United States. Goodbye to everyone.